In the heart of inner city Detroit, where challenges and opportunities intersect, one man saw a chance to transform lives through the power of horses. David Silver, founder of Detroit Horsepower, is reshaping the narrative of urban revitalization, introducing horses as a vehicle for building character, resilience, and community. Before we dive into our conversation, let's take a look at a short video that captures the essence of this incredible journey and the impact it's having on the city of Detroit.
What I love most about horses is that they're not judgmental. You feel like you can tell them anything in the world and they can't go on and tell your secrets, and you have so much trust embedded in them that they're your best friends.
When I'm riding a horse, it's amazing. Moving differently, it's like you're on a different playing field, like you're in a different dimension when you're on this horse.
When students encounter horses, the transformation that I see is joy. To feel good changes the mood. It shifts the paradigm of how one sees oneself. Having that connectivity with the horses is going to create memories that are long-standing and equip them with where they need to be and where they want to be in the future.
When I saw my kids on horses for the first time, I felt very emotional. I saw them be in control of their behavior. I saw them break out of shells and become totally different children.
Detroit Horsepower started as an idea when I left teaching in 2014 and started with our first year of summer horse camps. It took another 3 years for us to start an after-school program, and longer still before we had secured a large vacant land site where we'll be building the largest urban equestrian center dedicated to youth development in the country.
When I first heard the idea of Detroit Horsepower, I was like, riding horses? I've never heard of anybody doing that. My peers have never been around a horse. They've never had a real interaction with the horse. They only see them on TV. When I tell them that I'm an equestrian and I've been with horses for like a really long time, they're really, really impressed by it.
The equestrian field in the urban setting is pretty much not talked about. Detroit Horsepower provides an entry door to addressing barriers that come up racially, that come up economically, and that come up gender-wise. One of the students comes in and she says, "These are my college acceptance letters." And it wasn't one, it wasn't two, and the list just kept going on. I can just see the light in her eyes that I can do this, I have a place in this world, and the world is gonna be mine.
I hope more students have the opportunity to learn with Detroit Horsepower, because this opens up a world of opportunities for them, their future education, their future career goals, and it gives them the opportunity to build character.
You can take a fragile young person and involve them in Detroit Horsepower and expose them to horses, and you will see their self-confidence emerge. How could you not love something like that?
Thank you to everyone who's made Detroit Horsepower's work possible, from financial contributions to volunteer hours to opening up space and allowing us to use horses at wonderful barns outside the city. We couldn't do this work without you, and we're so grateful for your support.
Hey, David, welcome to the Backyard Horse Enthusiast. Happy to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I saw your mission in a Yusuf newsletter, and I was instantly intrigued. And I went out and I had to read what was going on, and I was blown away by your passion for this huge endeavor. Huge. Holy cow. I wish I had half of your passion. Anyways, so your story begins with a walk past a 14-acre lot of unused land, right? In inner city Detroit. So you're going for a walk and you see this property. Talk about this. Please tell us how did you envision, oh, this would make a great horse property where I can do the work I'm so passionate about.
Yeah, I would say the story starts a bit earlier than that because I'm not originally from Detroit. I'm from the suburbs of New York City, where I was really lucky to have grown up with horses. When all my friends were taking Metro North, the train into Manhattan, I was driving the other way into horse country,
Mm.
first in hunter jumpers and then 3-day eventing, which was a really good move for me. And so horses were a huge part of my life growing up, although I don't think I had the framework to process how those experiences were shaping me as a person. It really wasn't until later that I actually took a step back from horses and became really passionate about education and using the advantages I'd been given to open doors for others, that I joined a program called Teach for America, which recruits recent college graduates to become teachers in high needs parts of the country. And that's how I ended up in Detroit in 2012. I was a fourth and fifth grade teacher on the west side of Detroit and was not connected to horses at that time. It was such a huge part of my life. I always knew I could come back to horses at a later date. But as a newcomer in Detroit, you're constantly confronted with the loss of population and industry. This was once the fourth largest city in the country with almost 2 million residents. Today, Detroit has a little bit more than 600,000 people living here. So it's about a third of its peak. And so that's left a lot of vacant structures, which have increasingly been torn down, which is a great step, but it leaves a lot of open space. And as a horse person, you can't help but think that looks like a nice pasture, or you could have a really nice cross country field out in that property. So that spark was not immediate, but I would say it was a long time coming, kind of a culmination of things that meant a lot in my formative years, and combining that to what's really important to me in this chapter of my life, which is opening doors for young people, especially young people in the city of Detroit.
Wow. So how do you see Detroit horsepower fitting into the broader narrative of the city's revival and resilience?
Yeah, Detroit has changed a lot since I moved there in 2012. Moved here, talking to you from Detroit. I've lived in the city all 12 years. I've been here now a homeowner. I met my wife here. It's been really encouraging to see new businesses open up, new construction, and my personal opinion is that Detroit will not it's not about bringing it back to what it was. Detroit won't have 2 million people in the future. I actually think that's a good thing. I think Detroit has the opportunity to build a new model of a vibrant, sustainable 21st century city where, in my prediction, Detroit is going to have the best of both worlds. We have world-class institutions like the Detroit Institute of Arts is a world-class art museum. We have all four professional sports teams, major professional sports teams, basketball, football, hockey, and baseball, all are within a small area of, downtown Detroit, whole stadium district. We've got amazing concerts and arts and culture, connection to jobs and the economy. there's also space where you can have 14 acres devoted to horses and youth opportunity right in the city, really building something special that I think other cities are going to be incredibly jealous of in the future.
And I hope they emulate it.
I agree,
Yes.
although I believe Detroit is in such a unique position that as others seek to follow in this model, we have the opportunity to build. I don't know if other cities will be able to replicate what we have the opportunity to do. I think it's that special, this
Mm,
unique position that Detroit is in right now.
okay, thank you. Your background as an elementary teacher seems pivotal to Detroit Horsepower's mission. How did your work in social emotional learning inspire the core curriculum of Perk's traits? And how do these values manifest in your students' lives?
Yeah, I appreciate that question. When I was a teacher at Burns Elementary Middle School on the west side of Detroit, I was really influenced by the research on social emotional learning and character education, these research-based characteristics that underlie success in school and in life. So I was having conversations with my students about skills like confidence and perseverance and empathy and others. And it was really through those conversations that I could put the pieces together that these skills matter and that horses taught me these skills when I was growing up. These were, really important light bulb moments for me to recognize that, all the while through riding 6 days a week and traveling and competing and having my own horse, was building really important success skills within myself. The ability to go into a cross country course and believe you and your horse partner can overcome these incredible obstacles, to battle through adversity, whether that's injuries or disappointing dressage scores, which was a lot of my competitive experiences, um, or taking strong mentorship and advice from trainers, not to be too overly confident, or at least go beyond what you're ready for, to take responsible risks, and a lot more we could definitely go into of how horses were, teaching me these really important life lessons. But the third component, beyond that, these skills matter and horses taught me these skills. So really clear recognition that horses are not generally available to low-income urban youth of color growing up in the city of Detroit. It's just not accessible. Maybe they've seen the mounted police, in a ceremonial setting like the Thanksgiving Day parade or at a Tigers game or at Eastern Market. Or maybe they had a birthday party once where, someone was doing pony rides. They rented, horse trailered in and you get kind of plopped on and you go once around, and that's about it. And so the deep and life-changing opportunities that I knew horses had provided to me, it's not accessible for kids growing up in the city. And I was really motivated to pursue this idea that became Detroit Horsepower, to break down the barriers that keep kids like my students from accessing the really important benefits that horses can offer.
Big undertaking, David. Wow. The idea of introducing horses to children in an urban setting seems both ambitious and unconventional. What were some of the biggest challenges you faced when you were trying to gain community support for your vision?
Yeah. I would take that in maybe two directions. Um, so I think that the two things that were really important were to get started with connecting young people with horses, and that happened through a lot of partnerships. So we partnered with two initial barns in 2015, which is the year Detroit Horsepower incorporated and became a 501(c)(3) nonprofit, that were willing to kind of take a risk and host a brand new organization. Myself, as a former teacher, I had left the classroom at that point to start Detroit Horsepower. but was working out this curriculum that became the perks traits, which you mentioned, and had a bunch of great volunteers who found out about what we were doing and wanted to help. I think my sister was in that initial group of volunteers. And we also partnered with Detroit-based community organizations. One of our first group of students came from Burns, the school that I used to teach at. The other came from a great 30-year-old nonprofit organization called Alternatives for Girls that I cold called and said, would you be interested in sending your participants to a horse camp? And they were willing to talk it out with me and say, oh, this is a legitimate opportunity we want to be a part of. And through those two initial camps, we built new partnerships with partner barns that allowed us to do 6 weeks of camps the next year and then 8 weeks of camp the following year, and continue to grow. And that allowed us to invite people to come see it in person or to share stories of the impact horses were having in this initial model, which involves picking kids up in Detroit and driving to partner barns outside the city. And I'd say that kind of starting the wheel turning was really important to, take this idea, which does sound pretty crazy, and say this is legitimate. This is impactful and important, and have other people say they want to be a part of it. There is one more thing I could say, but that's that was the first thought.
At Shagbark Lumber and Feed, they've got everything your horse needs to thrive, from high-quality grain and fresh hay to soft shavings and premium supplements. They've got you covered. Whether you're stocking up on grooming supplies or searching for the perfect feed, Shagbark is your one-stop shop for all things equine. Trust them to keep your horses happy and healthy, just like I do for my Dakota. Visit Shagbark Lumber and Feed today and experience the difference for yourself.
Thank you. I'm sorry, as someone who's witnessing, listening to you speak about this endeavor. I mean, you left teaching for it, you dove right in, you made the cold calls, you made it happen. I have to ask, where did your wife come into all of this, and how does she support you? I just have to, it's not even on my questions here, but I am curious.
My wife and I met in 2017, so Detroit Horsepower was, still getting our feet under ourselves. And she also comes from a horse background and is a teacher herself. So horses and education are things we really share in common. But I think we also have really healthy boundaries. Detroit Horsepower is fairly all-consuming for me. I put, everything I've got into this organization, and it's been important for us that she's not also all consumed by Detroit Horsepower. So there are important ways that she supports the mission and the organization, but it's not her thing like it's, is for me.
Yeah. Thank you. Just had to know. Inquiring minds are like, wow, this has to consume a lot of your time and energy. Oh, so you mentioned you partnered with barns across Southeast Michigan to provide the riding experiences before breaking ground on your new facility. Have you broken ground?
We did.
Congrats.
So this is a long time coming, going back to at least 2017 and probably 2016. Actually, we've had a big, wide search of potential properties all across the city of Detroit that would be suitable for horses. And in almost all of those cases, we've received really strong support from residents. That's the other really crucial factor. It was actually really helpful in the one case I can think of where neighbors around a property that I thought could be an interesting fit told us, we don't want horses in our community. Like, good luck to you, but not here. And that was really helpful because we could focus our efforts on potential properties that were really aligned with what residents wanted to see in their
Mhm.
community's future. And we ended up with two really ideal locations, and we selected this one where we'll be constructing our new facility. It's a 14-acre demolished school site. Unfortunately, the building, which was quite a historic structure, caught on fire in 2011, and no one was in the building and no one was injured, but the whole building had to be torn down, and the public school system did what they were supposed to do. They removed this blighted structure, but then didn't know what to do with this large open property. So we approached the superintendent in 2017, and through years of working with the school district and with the community, we developed a plan for what we wanted to build and made sure that aligned with neighborhood goals. And we got the school board to approve the sale of the property to Detroit Horsepower. So Detroit Horsepower is now the owner of this land, and we've been really successful in a capital campaign that's raised more than $8 million to allow us to get underway with the construction. So there was a big ceremonial groundbreaking in
Oh,
October of 2024, and the real heavy construction is going to begin spring of 2025.
congratulations. I, I do, I feel myself tearing up. That's beautiful. Oh, so I am reading my questions. There's quite a few. They're pretty lengthy. Breaking ground on the largest urban equestrian center in the country is no small feat. I don't have to tell you that. Can you share the process, what that was like to secure the funding and navigate the bureaucracy and turn the dream into a reality that you've just broken ground on?
Yeah, the funding is really, I'd say, the biggest challenge. Um, so we have been at this for many years, building long-term relationships with individual donors, private foundations, corporate sponsors, and units of government. Actually, both our county and the state of Michigan have both been contributors to this big project. So we launched this capital campaign in January of 2020. We all know what happened in March with the COVID-19 pandemic, so that was not best time to get underway with a big campaign like this, but we persevered and continue to make progress despite the world being turned upside down. And after many years of, like I said, relationship building with key stakeholders that have some combination of belief in the three pillars that we care about, which is kids, horses, and Detroit. And I'd say if at
Mhm.
least you align with two of those, like a Detroit focused philanthropic institution that's open to hearing about horses, contributing to stronger communities, or someone who doesn't necessarily have a connection to Detroit but cares about horses and youth opportunity. There's a lot we can talk about if at least two of those areas matter to folks. And we've had a lot of success in getting the word out through opportunities like this and sharing with an audience that hopefully resonates with what horses have meant in their lives, and wanting to pass that forward to young people who ordinarily wouldn't have the chance to be a part of these really transformational opportunities. So definitely a long-term effort. You also asked about the bureaucracy, which is an important question. The city of Detroit has been very supportive, but it's taken time. And I think the most important factor in their decisions and the approvals that we've been able to get from city government is how the community feels about having horses in their neighborhood. And like we said just a few moments ago, that was really where we started in selecting the right property, not just that it was big and open, but what do residents think? And when we were able to go to city government and say, we've got this pretty out of the box proposal, and the community is really excited, about having
Mm.
horses in their neighborhood, that's really smoothed the pathway. I'm not saying it's been fast or easy, but those have really been the key factors to get us to this point.
I like that. That makes great sense rather than, we really want that property and let's go and, see if we can get it and then start the wheels in motion and find out that everybody's there petitioning to not let that happen. Oh my gosh. Ah, so, and you have mentioned that horses played a significant role in shaping who you are today. Can you share with us a specific memory or a lesson from your own experience with horses that left a profound impact on you?
There's a lot we could go into, thinking about how much of my, adolescence was spent around horses. I think the major theme from my competitive riding career, is honestly a lot of disappointing competitive results. I had a off the track thoroughbred who loved to jump. His name was Rush, and we could jump stadium all day, and cross country was a thrill. We were never competitive in dressage. But between injuries, he ended up with navicular that ended his upper level career, um, and a whole host of other factors. We never really achieved the kind of competitive success that we'd hoped for. And I think that experience of putting in the work, building a really strong relationship and trust and partnership, having really outstanding trainers. Mostly Jeannie Clark, who is actually a founding board member of Detroit Horsepower and an important mentor for me. Like surrounding myself with, this really important resources, doing this with my family. My mom is a lifelong horse lover, and my sister far exceeded my competitive, successes. My dad also now is in the saddle himself and enjoying riding as well.
What do you mean now? What do you mean? Was he not an equestrian?
He was
No.
always around, found ways to be helpful. He learned how to
Mhm.
change studs, in the horseshoes before and after cross country, or if we were doing stadium on grass. So he was always, along for the ride, but now he himself rides. And yeah, it was really not about, getting the blue ribbons, because the only time we did, we finished second in a certain division in Canada, and the good thing in Canada is that second is a blue ribbon. So, but it was really about being able to deal with setback, the partnership and relationship with, especially Rush, who was my horse for the longest, and yeah, those kinds of people in my life, that I got to share these horse experiences with.
So let's talk about the kids in your program. Their introduction to horses is for many of them, it's their first experience with animals of this size in nature, the big animals. What transformations have you seen in the students who participated in the Detroit Horsepower programs?
Yeah, there's a lot we could say in that area. I'd say at the kind of introductory level, it's really powerful to see, at a 4-day summer camp. It's a day program, so there, early Monday, we pick kids up and we drive to the horse barn, and we have a day of camp and we drive them home. Do that again Tuesday, Wednesday, and then Thursday. And so to see the transformation from getting there Monday morning, really being on like another planet. It's very different from Detroit to be out in the country with these big, often intimidating animals that you've never been around before. And so go to introduce yourself to a horse, and it kind of, exhales and, kind of blows on you. And students can be terrified. To see the transformation from, that initial, you know, whether they're timid or just out of their comfort zone, trying to figure out what is this experience going to be like, and to see them on the end of that fourth day, whether they're working on trotting independently or hand walking a horse through an obstacle course, or taking on greater responsibility for their care, like grooming, or hopefully picking out hooves, which is always a challenge for younger students. um, it's really powerful to watch how quickly students can really become, in their element. I won't say that, every single student gets the horse bug, but for everybody that, really embraces this opportunity, they're really, you can see a whole new world opening up in their lives, and what that can lead to, especially through our after school program, which works for the same students over the course of the entire school year and has really strong retention, so that generally all the students that finish that school year come back for the next school year and the next one and the next one. We've been able to, now that we've done this program for 10 years, we've had students really come up through Detroit Horsepower, and we've been able to employ our most advanced students who at one time were in that kind of younger, nervous shoes. And now they're the ones getting paid to teach those students about horses and the life lessons that they teach us. And as a former teacher, those kind of full circle moments are what you dream about.
Oh my gosh. And to watch them blossom like with self-confidence and you move a horse's feet, that is empowering.
Yes. Yes.
Oh my gosh, what kind of feedback do you get from parents, from family members, from even teachers, anyone that's in these children's lives? Like you must hear some amazing things about how their lives are transformed by their connection to these huge creatures.
Yeah. I'd say especially those advanced students that are with us the longest, we really see huge changes in how our students see themselves and how they see the world around them. And so we've had students say they never really considered college as the next step. Really high school graduation was all they kind of had in their sights. And through participating with Detroit Horsepower, through building these skills, through opening their horizons and really expanding what their possibilities could include, whether it's college or career, our students are finding far greater success through partnering with horses and building these really important life skills.
Amazing. As you look toward the opening of this new facility in 2026,
Got it.
what are your long-term goals for Detroit Horsepower, and how do you envision it evolving over, let's say, the next 10 years?
Yeah, I think we're going to look back on these first 10 years. Detroit Horsepower started in 2015, so this is kind of our 10th anniversary year in 2025. I think we're going to look back at these first 10 years kind of like the dark ages. The amount of time that we spend in transportation, the limited access that our students get, it's really purely subject to these generous partner horse barns and when they have availability to welcome our students into their spaces. So to have horses of our own that will belong to Detroit Horsepower and be housed 365 days a year right in the city and accessible for our students, to really count on and build those long-term relationships, and support their well-being, have a safe place that they can call their own. It's going to be on a whole nother level compared to what we've been able to do. And I don't mean to talk down about, we're really proud of the success we've had in our first 10 years, but it's just scratching the surface of what will be
Sure.
possible in the future. So come 2026, it is going to be a pretty radical expansion in the number of students that we can serve. We'll be adding a field trip program where we expect thousands of students to come through our barn doors every year and get a taste of horses and how they can be really transformational in their lives and their future. We'll have far more summer camp participants than we have currently. We're looking at a 5-fold increase in our summer camp capacity. And then after school programming will also increase the number of students, but like we were just saying, the biggest change is how much time they can spend with horses, which is really limited in the current state of our programming. And it's going to be a game changer
Oh
for
my
years and
gosh.
years to come.
Yeah, definitely can see that. I mean, just having that access 365 days. You don't have to check in with different facilities. Can you fit us in for how many weeks? Da-da-da, how many with the out? Yeah. How will you acquire your equine friends?
We've been really fortunate over the years. There have been more folks than I can count who have reached out about donating horses to Detroit Horsepower. And while we don't necessarily expect those particular examples to still be available, whether it's a kid's gone off to college or somebody who's looking to move up the levels, but a horse
Mhm.
is kind of on the, you know, tail end of their career. Or we've had calls when somebody's passed away and folks are making arrangements for someone's estate, which could include horses.
Wow.
Those are just some of the examples we've come across with no outreach, no solicitations whatsoever. We think when we put the call out that we're ready to consider the right horse partners for Detroit Horsepower's new facility, we expect to get a really strong response. And we're really looking forward to having those conversations in the year ahead.
Nice. That's awesome. And you'll be in the inner city, but I mean, will you have a shuttle for the kids and stuff like that? How will that work? I'm curious about the logistics of everything. How's this going to work?
Yeah, our location is on two major bus lines, and so it is more accessible that way. There's also a Rails to Trails project that's putting a walking and biking route actually right next to our facility. We're working on getting bridle path access so that we could actually ride horses on the rail trail.
Yeah.
But saying all that to say, it will be far more accessible
Hmm.
when we're based in Detroit. Detroit is really big geographically, it's really spread out. And so there will be some transportation Detroit Horsepower provides, especially, say students on the far west side or the far east side that have trouble getting to our location, which is fairly centrally located within Detroit. We'll continue to support, making sure transportation is not a barrier, but being in the city is going to remove most of the barriers that currently exist.
Nice. Finally, David, your final question, and I'll let you go. I know you are a busy man, so it's very much appreciated that you're here. Detroit Horsepower is clearly more than just horses. It's about building character, opportunity, and community. What do you hope your legacy will be, both as an individual and through this organization?
Have a lot of conversations about legacy. I think, we're pretty laser focused on getting this facility open in 2026 and getting it right. This will be a really big expansion in our program capacity and in our operations, having horses of our own and having a facility to maintain. And so I think to answer your question, it's to have set out on this, like you said, a really ambitious journey to transform 14 acres of vacant land into the largest facility of its kind, an urban equestrian center. and to be able to scale up youth opportunity, while also strengthening the environments that students grow up in by turning this blight into a community asset. I think those kind of two pillars of youth development and community revitalization are the two things that really stand out to us about what horses have to offer Detroit's future. And when we are successful in reaching our goals and opening this new facility and scaling these opportunities for young people, I think those two things should hopefully follow, is the outstanding talents of our young people that horses can help unlock, and allow them to reach their full potential, and for Detroit's neighborhoods to grow stronger through this innovative blend of a traditionally rural kind of land use that's appropriately integrated into an existing neighborhood that's embraced horses as part of the community's future. I think those are what we're really striving for.
And I'll bet you'll hit that. Definitely. I hope to get an invitation when you open so I can come and tour this amazing facility myself.
Would love that.
Oh, same. And I am wishing you the best. I thank you for taking time out of your very busy day to share this with us. And God bless you. I am just so excited about this, and I'm not going to cry. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for being a
Well,
guest.
it takes a village to get to this point, and I'm really grateful for the opportunity to share with you and all of your listeners.
Thank you so much. We'll talk soon. Take care.
Thank you. You too.